All right, so we're going to start off by traveling back in time a little. It's the early 2000s, and I'm working for America's Funniest Home Videos. I had the worst boss I've ever had. I never knew what version of her I was going to get from day to day. So, was this going to be the version of her that said hello in the morning and how are you? It felt like she cared about my well being. She provided really clear instructions. I knew what was expected to me every day. Or was I going to get the version of her that yells and tells me how horrible I am and changes the direction by the hour? Anyone else had a boss like that? Or maybe just a terrible boss, a tough boss, a horrible boss? Let me know in the chat, or if I can see you, you can raise your hand or you can raise your digital hand. I'm seeing some thumbs up. I've been fortunate that not all of my bosses, most of my bosses have been really great, but it was just unfortunate that this was the beginning of my time in the working world and she was the first boss that I had. Now, the person that you see in this picture here, this is Tom Bergeron. He was the host of America's Funniest Home Videos at the time. Lovely human being. I have nothing but nice things to say about him. And honestly, most everyone that worked at America's Funniest Home Videos was amazing. But I couldn't stay because of this one woman. I think I lasted about 9 months, and I don't know honestly how I lasted that long. But what I learned about leadership and what not to do is something that has stuck with me and shaped how I lead today. Now, I stayed in Hollywood for the next couple of years. I fumbled my way through a bunch of odd jobs to try to make it big in Hollywood as an actor, and it wasn't easy. I faced a ton of rejection and knowing how I was going to pay my next bill. I remember waking up in a cold sweat on this old couch that somehow we had gotten for free, and I just was thinking, what in the world am I doing? So, that was the moment that I let go of that dream and moved back home to the East Coast. I'm originally from the Baltimore area. I felt a ton of shame associated with that experience, especially at first. But what it did was create this strong foundation for me to take risks and experiment and keep learning, all things we need as leaders. And when I walked away from that career, I walked into a career of leadership and learning and development. I got to work in healthcare and nonprofit and government, leading the learning function for most of it. And it's what led me to now running my own leadership and team development practice. But it's been quite a journey to get to this point, and I experienced a ton of uncertainty and unpredictability along the way, and I still feel that at times. Well, now I want to hear from you. When you think about today and your leadership, your team, your work, your organization, what feels most unpredictable for you right now? Let me know in the chat. What feels most unpredictable for you right now? And Jennifer, I see it sounds like most of your bosses have been great too. Certainly a blessing. Expenses, okay. Emotional safety, psychological safety. What else? What feels unpredictable? AI, future role, scheduling to meet work and family needs. Absolutely, Ashley. Proposal schedules, psychological safety with executive stakeholders. Yep, Ashley. Funding, changing priorities. Anything else feel unpredictable? Budgeting, work-life balance. Has anyone ever heard this term VUCA before? It's an acronym, VUCA. Anyone heard of that before? Let me know in the chat if you've heard of it or give me a thumbs up. Okay, so I'm seeing a couple people, some people shaking their heads. Maybe only a couple people know. Ashley says, you have, okay, Simone says new to me. Okay, so I want to start off with this concept of VUCA because when I first heard it probably a decade ago, it made so much sense to me. It really described the working world for me and what leading in the working world felt like. So it's actually back in the mid 80s, there was a book called Leaders, The Strategies for Taking Charge. That's where the concept of VUCA came from, and then it was adopted by the military in the 90s. And it is a framework that describes the fast changing, unpredictable nature of today's world. So it's not a new concept, but I don't know about you, but for me, it still feels very relevant today. So the first letter in the acronym V stands for volatility. So this is referring to rapid change, unpredictable change. Conditions are shifting constantly. Uncertainty, this refers to our future being unclear. Past experiences that we've had, they don't always predict what comes next. Complexity. This highlights the interconnectedness of multiple factors. It makes decisions really hard to navigate. And then ambiguity, gray. This points to lack of clarity, where situations can be interpreted in multiple ways, and we don't always have a clear answer. How would you describe how it feels to be in VUCA? For me, there's just this unsteadiness, and I feel like I'm free falling. How about you? Does this term resonate with you? How does it feel? Anxiety? Anyone else? How does VUCA feel? How does it feel to operate as a leader? Stressful, whiplash, unsure of next move. Yeah, it is a lot of weight to carry, Ashley. Burnout at times, unease, unnerving. Yeah, yeah, I feel all of that. Now, wouldn't it be great if there was a leadership script we could all follow to help us better navigate VUCA? Just tell me what to say, tell me what to do. Unfortunately, there isn't a script in leadership. We aren't given the stage directions. We don't know our lines ahead of time. We're not really sure who's coming in from stage right or stage left. I remember a time, this is when I was working as a director of learning and development for a company, and I remember a time that I had planned, had a script, and that script did not match the moment. So I was in my first team meeting with a brand new team. I think it was, maybe week 3 for me, and I had a plan. I had framed up the conversation, and it was all based on what I'd done in the past. And someone said, after I'd shared my spiel, it sounds like you don't think we're doing a good job. That was not my intent. In that moment, I froze because everything that I had prepared suddenly wasn't going to work. It felt irrelevant in that moment. It was actually going to get the exact opposite response that I wanted. And in that moment, I had a choice. Do I defend my intentions? Do I keep going down the path of this script? Or do I get curious about their experience? And I searched for something. In that moment, I searched for something that could anchor me, something that could ground me in that moment. And I went back to my purpose. In the first 90 days, I had one commitment: I want to build trust and relationships. And that became the focal point of the conversation. So instead of explaining more and trying to defend myself, I just listened. I got really curious, and that led us down a much more collaborative, productive path. As leaders, you're going to face moments where your plans no longer fit the situation in front of you. I imagine you can think of plenty of similar examples. And the question isn't whether you're going to encounter uncertainty, the question is, what anchors you when you do? I don't know about you, but I never went to a class on how to be adaptable. I learned how to be adaptable by building anchors, things that could help me remain steady but flexible. Principles, practices, and even people that could help me stay grounded, focused, and intentional when everything else felt uncertain and unpredictable. So now the central question for me in VUCA situations is, what will anchor me in this moment? And that's what I'm going to share with you today. Anchors that give you the capacity to adapt and be more intentional. My experience in Hollywood and with America's Funniest Home Videos, that very unpredictable nature of acting, I didn't have a lot of anchors. And that experience, it really taught me the importance of staying resilient, building resilience, and it taught me that I needed to be more intentional about staying grounded. We're going to focus on 3 main buckets for where these anchors fall: work, This is all about how you navigate your workload, your calendar, your effort, your energy, your focus. Self, which is all about how you lead yourself, you build your skills, you stay resilient, and team, how you lead and grow your team to perform well and without having to look over their shoulder all the time. So, I am going to have us do a little self assessment first. I have a poll that I'm going to launch. I just launched it, and you'll see 4 questions in there. So, you're going to do a little self assessment. How do you rate each category for yourself? Work, how effective do you see yourself in each category? And then the last question is which area would have the biggest impact on your leadership if you improved it, if you were to focus on it? And it doesn't necessarily have to be the area that you feel like you have the most room to grow. So I'll give you a moment to go through this and answer those questions. All right, I see some answers coming in. Okay. I'll give it another 20 seconds. All right. Final 5 seconds answering those questions. Okay, so it looks like I'm ending the poll and going to share the results so you can take a look at those results. So, kind of a mix of responses. Maybe most people, at least in work and self, are kind of in the middle around that 3, a little bit higher when it comes to team. And we want to focus on self. Okay, great. I'm going to stop sharing that. If it doesn't close out in front of you, you can just click on the X and that'll close out the poll so that you can see the screen. So that gives you a sense of where you're starting from and what you really want to focus on. Because I'm going to share a menu of different anchors, and that'll just help you zoom in a little bit more on the ones that you think are going to impact you the most. Now, before I start digging into work, self, and team anchors, I want you to have a clear vision for yourself in the future. Think about how you rated each area. Think about the area that you really want to focus on. And if you were to focus on that self, because a lot of you pick self, how would you show up differently? Really think about where you are today and where you want to be 1 year from now. What is that ideal self, that ideal leader? What type of leader are you aspiring to be? How do you want to show up for others? So, this is that first exercise. When I'd asked you to grab that piece of paper or that Word document, this is the first exercise I'm going to have you do. You're going to complete this sentence. 1 year from now, I am what? And I'm going to pop up some sample statements for inspiration in case it helps. These are real examples that other leaders have shared with me in the past. So I'll be quiet so you can write out your 1 year from now statement. And if anyone has written it out and would like to share it, please go ahead and feel free to share it in the chat. I think putting it out in the universe increases your chances of reaching it, holds you more accountable to it. 1 year from now, I am hoping to have more confidence in having the difficult conversation with my staff. Okay, thank you. And the language of this is really important. Using I am instead of I will be, it helps us embody that future self. We have a stronger connection to where we want to go when we say that. Anyone else want to share their 1 year from now I am statement? 1 year from now, I am basking in the glow of having successfully navigated a massive period of transition. Proud not just of where we landed, but of how I supported my team through the change to help them grow and made sure we came out stronger on the other side. Oh, I love that. I am more self confident in my abilities. Yes. It's getting me excited reading your future self statements. These aren't even mine. 1 year from now, I am leading a high performing team that enables me to have capacity to expand into other projects and increase accountability. I am known for bringing order to complexity for large organizations. I love it. So, one thing that I always recommend to leaders when they come up with their statement is put it somewhere visible. Put it in your planner, your daily planner. Put it on a post-it and put it on your computer screen or wherever your work desk is, or just whiteboard it. Put it on your whiteboard, put it on your bulletin board, somewhere where you can see it and it is visible to you every day as a reminder of what you're trying to embody. All right, I see a few more. I am confident, build up others, meet people where they are, and support based on what others tell me they need. I have excellent life work balance and find joy in my work and enjoy learning from others around me. I love it. 1 year from now, I am being more decisive and sure of my skills. I'm making decisions with confidence and continuing to build relationships. I love this. 1 year from now, I am taking more risks. Ooh, these are so exciting. Thank you for sharing. Continue to keep sharing these and have this in mind again as we're going through the specific strategies, anchors in each of these categories. So I want you to raise your hand or let me know in the chat if this resonates or give a little thumbs up if you have ever said any or all of these. I am so busy. I don't have time. There's no space to think. I have too many meetings. I need to delegate more. Never. I see you, Elise. Yes, 10,000%. Huh? Yeah, I forgot to raise my hand because these are things that I have said and felt before. All of them, every day. Oh my gosh. Yes. All right. So it is the number one complaint that I hear from leaders, and let's face it, just about everyone, that we don't have enough time, that we're too busy. We don't have enough time to think strategically, to develop ourselves, to develop our teams, or even take care of ourselves. Maybe you feel like I don't even have time to be in this conversation today, right? These are things that we take on, we think, we say constantly. And for the most part, many of the leaders that I've worked with who have said this, they just don't have a system in place that works for them, something that can ground them when they're experiencing the unexpected, which, let's face it, we know that's going to continue, right? VUCA's not going anywhere. So we need to build anchors to help counteract it so we don't lose ourselves in the process. Because no work is worth our health. We are all more important than our roles and the work that we do. What, if anything, grounds you in your work now? What systems do you have in place to help navigate your time, your calendar, your energy, your effort? How do you currently build capacity to think, plan, and vision? What are some of the things you're currently doing? Let me know in the chat. And if you don't have anything, that's okay to say that too. Blocking out time for planning. Okay, great. What else? Anything else? Okay. Well, and for dedicated working, big rocks session on Friday for the following week. Love it. Focusing on the big rocks first. Blocking time and exercise, prioritize sleep, time with friends, being super proactive, weekly planning. Love it. Regular team meetings on Monday. Block my Monday AM each week. Yep, that's great. Awesome. Well, if you have other things you do, keep putting those in the chat because they might give ideas to other people as well. I'm going to share three big anchors that have helped me, and I've seen them help other leaders as well. So, importance over urgency is the first one. It is so easy to get sucked into the urgency trap because urgency feels good. When we answer that email, we put out that fire, we respond to that Teams message or that Slack message, we get a little dopamine hit. I think, though, that we can all agree that not everything that's seemingly urgent is important. Notifications and emails, for example, sometimes even meetings, they can create a false sense of urgency. We get sucked in and then pulled away from the more strategic, visionary, focused work a lot of us got into leadership to do. I was recently wrapping up a coaching engagement with a leader, and she'd mentioning getting at least 2 hours of back on her calendar every week to do more focused strategic work at the end of our engagement. And when I asked her what had contributed to that the most, she said it was focusing on importance first. She said, I've realized that not everything that's urgent is important, and not everything important needs to be done right away. I can plan for these things. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Eisenhower matrix or the time management matrix. It's not a new tool. It's a framework for looking at your workload and then discerning what's important and what's urgent. It can really help you better prioritize and figure out the things that might be time sucks for you that don't really need to, and the things that maybe you should be delegating, or you can block that time on your calendar. It doesn't have to be done right now. It's something that I started using probably over a decade ago, and it changed where my time, my energy, my effort, my focus went. It's made me feel more accomplished at the end of each week and given me space to actually lead and be strategic and grow myself and my team. And this is something that that manager I worked with shared was the same. Now, I think the best way to really operationalize the idea of importance over urgency, because it really is a mindset, is having a weekly planning meeting. So, some of you, it sounds like, might do this already, but this is time that you set aside once a week, 20 to 30 minutes, to just map out what your week looks like. Something that I encourage every leader that I work with to implement. In fact, I would love if you opened your calendar right now and plopped it on. Plop on a reoccurring meeting that you can call weekly planning meeting, or if you want some other fun title for it, that's great too. I like to do mine on Mondays. So Mondays, 8:30 to 9 is blocked off, and that is my weekly planning meeting. So it is my chance to zoom out, look at the week ahead, look at what are things that I should be saying no to, what are things that I can push to next week or the week after, what are some things that are coming up in the next few weeks that I need to make sure that I set aside time for, design work or other strategic work that I need to do. So it's really a chance to ask what's important. Is there anything that's important and urgent? And then are there things here that really aren't important? They don't align with my values, with my key performance indicators, with my goals. And when we're talking about urgent, it means I need to stop what I'm doing right now and take care of this. There shouldn't be a lot of those things. Those are the crises. Emails, for the most part, notifications that you're getting, those are not crises. Those are things that we could come back to if we need to. So the weekly planning meeting, some people like to do it on Fridays, or there's a different day of the week that they like. So choose what day works for you and just create the reoccurring meeting for yourself. Block that time. Even if you don't take the full 30 minutes, even if it's only 5 minutes, it is a chance for you to just pause at least once a week and be really intentional about where you're putting your effort and your energy for that week. And Simone was saying, oh, sorry, I'm seeing a few things in the chat too that people are just adding some more tips, some more anchors and things that they use systems. So great. Now, I was reading some data recently from Gallup, and they said that having a forced slowdown, like a weekly planning meeting, pausing to reframe your thinking and how you see the week, that reduces burnout by 48%. So, for anyone that's feeling a bit overwhelmed, I'm telling you, this could be the key. It's something leaders have come back to me over and over again that have said it's the one thing that they keep through all of it. Some of their systems and boundaries might fall apart, but they really try to keep this weekly planning meeting so that they can be strategic about how they tackle their week. Now, I'm going to have you do another exercise. We're going to do a forced slowdown right now where you are going to identify one thing you can nope this week, one thing you can delegate, and one thing you can keep. And since we're on Wednesday, this can go till the following week. So, what is one thing in the next 10 days that you could say no to? You really don't need to be there. You've got other team members that are there, or the project's not starting for a while. So, maybe this is something we could delay until next month instead. Maybe it's a social engagement that you just do not have the energy for. It's not an absolute yes. So, you want to say no to it. And then, is there anything that you could pass on? Is there anyone on the team that maybe could take care of this task, or they could attend this meeting and they're going to do it 70 to 80% as well as you? That is great. Let's give them that growth opportunity. And then what is something you want to make sure you're at? They need my expertise in this meeting, or this is 100% something I need to focus on this week because it is due on Friday, or it is due within the next couple of days. Any anyone want to share what they want to nope, delegate, or keep on their calendar too? You can go ahead and post that in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and share out loud, that's fine too. And Elisa's sharing, it took me a long time to find the right time I can honor. I did it on Friday for a long time and I was just spent from the week. I hear you. I have balance. I mean, I've played around too, Elise, with the weekly planning meeting, doing it on Mondays or Fridays as well. And Friday afternoon, like you, I'm just done. So I usually Friday afternoon will at least look at what I've got going on for the week. And if there's something I know is really big, I might block a chunk of time and then follow up on Mondays. But Mondays, I have it there because I'm just fresher. It's looking at the week with fresh eyes. All right, Ashley's sharing. Say no to meetings where I'm not a key stakeholder. Delegate new hire training. Yep, and focus, prioritize finalizing the proxy statement. Great. Keep practice session for presentation with my team. Great, Adam. There's another individual that I was working with recently, and I asked the same question around how much time have you gotten back in your calendar? But he was saying no to meetings more, and he was delegating more, and he was using AI a lot more as well, Claude. And he said at least 8 to 12 hours, if not more, a week. A week. He told me that he has his weekends back and he's able to take his daughter to practice in the mornings before work. He wasn't able to do that before. 8 to 12 hours a week. That just it's mind-blowing, and the fact that he has his weekends back is so exciting. And part of that is doing this activity, the noping, the delegating, really being intentional about what you keep, the weekly planning, and focusing on importance over urgency. Feel free to keep sharing that, or make sure you at least mark it down for yourself, because this is something that you can take with you right after this session. Decline that meeting politely, start delegating that one thing. It's something you can start right away. Okay, so this is the last anchor for this category, and I have to give credit for this boundaries are beautiful phrase to a former colleague of mine, Kayla Archer, a former teammate that I used to work with. It actually became one of our team norms. And the story that always pops up in my head when I think about this is about 8 or 9 years ago. I was pregnant, 9 years ago, because I was pregnant with my son. I was 8 or 9 months pregnant at the time, and we had this deadline for training that had to be launched. Mandatory training, it was going to be launched to the whole organization. We'd set the deadline. Everything I thought was on track. I had delegated the activity to someone else. I checked in, everything's going well. And then it came to be the day that it was due, and come to find out it was not doing well. And we were going to miss our deadline. And so I ended up staying up until almost midnight, fixing what I needed to fix, updating what I needed to update, and then we launched it, I think at 11:46 p.m., something like that. And after that was done, I said to myself, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I stayed up till almost midnight for this. It would have been fine if it was delayed a day or two. People would have understand. I mean, it's mandatory training. Nobody wants to do this anyways. And so for me, it was a moment where I said, I need better boundaries. This is not worth the sacrifice of my health and sleep, especially when I have a baby on the way. So when I think about boundaries are beautiful, I always come back to that story to remind myself why boundaries are so important. So, doing a boundary audit for yourself to say, where are my needs not getting met? What's a boundary I should put into place to help me with that need? Maybe there's a boundary that I need to revisit, or maybe there's one that I've created for myself that I'm not really sticking to it. And this is the time to better hold myself accountable. meaning I need to recommunicate that boundary to others and then hold people to them as well. Now, when we're talking about anchoring ourselves around boundaries, this is not about getting stuck either. This is about what's going to steady you, not what's going to make you immovable or rigid. So we don't want our boundaries to be too rigid that then it doesn't allow for creativity and curiosity and really being able to support other people. So there's a fine balance here to just be aware of as well. Okay, self. We're going to dig into some anchors around self. This is how you lead yourself, how you build your skills, how you stay resilient. What challenges are you all experiencing here? Is it feeling burnout or stress, dealing with imposter syndrome? Do you feel emotionally exhausted or you feel like there's just no space or capacity for learning? You're struggling with managing emotions. Any of those things feel relevant, or is there another challenge with self leadership that you're experiencing? Because this is one that a lot of you mentioned you want to work on, continuing to strengthen. I see a thumbs up. So maybe some of these really resonate with you. All okay. Anything else that you might be experiencing here? Mm, yeah, imposter syndrome. I know that comes up. It's hard for it not to. Yeah. Anything else? Any other challenges? Mm, managing emotions. Hmm. What helps to anchor you now in leading yourself? What are things that you do to stay resilient? How do you continue to grow your knowledge and skills and abilities? Are there things that you're doing currently to help in that space? Reminding myself of wins. Yep, absolutely. Taking leadership training to relax, play mahjong. Wonderful. Anything else anyone's doing? We'll keep those coming in if you do have some things. It's always great to share ideas with others. Keeping up with industry newsletters, asking for feedback from peers, direct reports, leadership team. Does this, I'm going to share this with you and see if it resonates with you. In my experience with a lot of organizations, the tendency is to spend a lot of time on our weaknesses, on the deficits, on the gaps, our areas of opportunity. So we're really trying to focus on improving those, and it really only leaves a little bit of room for our strengths. And I think we should switch our thinking around that. How might things change if we spent more time on the things that really strengthen us, the things that we're naturally good at, naturally talented? Doesn't mean we ignore those areas of opportunity, gaps, deficits, weaknesses, whatever you want to call them. We don't ignore them, but we're just looking to our strengths to help us overcome them. Or better yet, we're looking to our team's strengths to help us overcome our areas of opportunity. This strengths based philosophy has been a huge driver for me. When I feel stuck and I don't know how I'm going to tackle a problem or I don't know how I'm going to take on a new assignment, I go to what I'm good at. What strength can help me in this situation? Which strengths can really ground me? Has anyone ever done any type of strengths assessments? Working Genius, Clifton Strengths, insights, any of those, please drop them in the chat if you've done any of those kinds of psychometric, strengths based communication style tools. Clifton, Lauren has shared. Yep. Disc, Strengths Finder, Insights Disc. Adam, you're like me. I love them all. I've taken, I don't know, probably like 8 over the years. I think that they are um, great windows into understanding ourselves and others better. So many, Val says. So this is a tool you don't want to sit on the shelf, right? Sometimes we do these, we get excited, and then it just kind of sits to the side and we forget about it. This is a chance to dust it off and revisit it because there is so much gold in these reports that really uncover things about yourself and things about how others show up as well. Ways that you can better meet people where they're at, ways that you can better leverage what you're already naturally talented at to tackle problems. So, strengths absolutely are one of those really important anchors. Now, Anyone that knows me probably knows that my top two values are fun and adventure. This process of identifying what my values are has been so important for me, especially since when I was back in Hollywood, I didn't have that. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have values. I didn't have a really clear identity for who I was. And the exercise that I've done around my values, I probably did it 10, 12 years ago, has really been a foundation for how I make decisions, for how I lead myself and how I lead others as well. If anyone knows what your top two values are, please share them in the chat, or your top values. I follow Brene Brown's exercise around values. That's how I did this. And she really encourages people to focus just on their top two as their strongest. Anyone know what their values are? I want to share them. Okay, balance. Anything else? Anyone else know what their values are? A lot of us work in organizations where we know the values of the company. It's also equally as important for us to know our own values. It can drive so many things for ourselves: inclusion, integrity, health and accountability. Yeah, absolutely. Fun for sure. I see you, Jen. Kindness. Absolutely. So if you haven't done an exercise around identifying your values, this is another thing that can really anchor you. And I've been talking to a lot of leaders recently and asking them, they've been sharing stories about challenging leadership situations. And when I ask what's really grounded them, a lot of people come back to values. It's really been my values that have anchored me, my values that have grounded me. Leading with empathy and kindness, absolutely. The last anchor that I want to share with you is a very broad category: frameworks. So these are examples of different frameworks that I've used over my career that have been so helpful. And I just kind of keep them in my invisible leadership toolkit to be able to use in a variety of situations. So that time management matrix that I'd mentioned to you, that's in that top corner, the yellow, red, green, blue boxes. That's really helped me to focus on importance over urgency. I've had to have a lot of tough conversations at work and in my personal life as well. So the crucial conversations model that's up there has been a great framework for that. Feedback has been something that has been so important to creating a psychologically safe environment and making sure that I'm doing it well. So I've really appreciated the radical candor model. There's so many different frameworks out there. It's just a matter of plugging and playing them into the right situation. And I have found that these have been some of the most helpful frameworks for me, those things that can anchor me in the moment to say, okay, I need to provide some tough feedback. This is the framework and the model I'm going to go back to. Or I really am getting sucked into the whirlwind and getting into the weeds. I need to go back to that time management matrix and zoom out and say, okay, what's really important and urgent? What's really important? What's not important and showing up as urgent for me right now? What are other frameworks that you all use? Maybe it's something that I have up here. Maybe it's another framework that I didn't mention that you have found really helpful. Anyone else have other frameworks that you come back to? There's a situational leadership a framework that I know some people really enjoy. There are other feedback models, SBI, situation, behavior, impact, that I know some people really appreciate. There's other models around psychological safety and frameworks there. Management matrix has been helpful to me. Yeah, there's decision making frameworks like RASCI is one of them to help identify who's responsible or who's accountable for certain things. So come back to this. There might be frameworks too that this is a great time to revisit because, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about the crucial conversations framework and I need to have a tough conversation. It's actually in my 1 year from now, I am statement that I should be having more tough conversations. So that might be a great framework to revisit. I don't use a framework consistently, which could help some of my burnout. Right. Yeah. A racy chart for team, Adam is sharing. Absolutely. So these are Three different anchors: values, strengths, and frameworks that can really help bridge the gap between a challenge or goal that I'm focused on and the outcome that I'm trying to achieve. All right, we're going to dive into this last category. And something that I do want to point out is I've categorized all these anchors into three buckets to keep it simple and organized, but they overlap. Switching from importance first, then urgency, that's going to have a ripple effect on your well being and your team's well being. A strengths focus for yourself, it works for your teams as well. You don't always have to rely on your own strengths to get through tough problems. You can go to your team as well. So while I'm introducing these separately, they really do integrate, they bleed into each other. Now, when you think about your team, what challenges might you be experiencing with them? Maybe it's conflict among team members. Maybe if you feel like there's a lack of motivation, people aren't really performing to expectations. We're experiencing some turnover right now. What challenges are you experiencing? Go ahead and share in the chat. Challenges with your team. Meeting deadlines. Okay. Yeah. What else are you experiencing? Process changes. Yeah. I imagine change comes up for a lot of people. It just feels like it's constant, right? There's always change. Oh, one person lacking some confidence. Absolutely. So maybe she's experiencing some imposter syndrome, navigating competing priorities, constant change, lack of vision direction from top leaders, creates chaos. It's hard to plan, prioritize. Challenges receiving additional team members to support the workload. Absolutely. Mindset, future state, constant changes. And what do you do? What are the things that help anchor your team? How do you help your team stay grounded in all of this unsteadiness? What kind of interventions or strategies or anchors are you currently using? What are some things you all are using? Go ahead and share in the chat. Acknowledging their feelings about the change. Okay. Yeah. So just giving space, holding space for people to be heard. We're remote, so setting meetings just to catch up with each other helps. Absolutely. Start each Monday by asking my team what I can do to support them, coming back to the table, what was a priority that no longer may be a priority, creating our own 6 month goals, regular check ins. Great. Keep those coming in as I'm sharing some anchors with you all as well. So this is a former team of mine. This is us at a holiday party many years ago. And when I was in this role with this team, I took a workshop on psychological safety. And if you're not familiar with the term, it's there's a book called The Fearless Organization. Amy Edmondson's the one that the research and coined the term. And the definition is it is permission to be candid without consequences. So feeling like you can speak up, you can take risks, you can make mistakes, and it's really about the group dynamic, feeling safe to do that in a group setting. Now, I was a director of learning at the time, and I'm in this psychological safety class just nodding along, thinking, oh, yeah, our team is so psychologically safe. It really felt like a validation of everything we had worked on for the last several months. I think I was maybe 4 or 5 months into the role at the time. We were a team that talked, we got along, we got things done. But none of these things are a guarantee of psychological safety. And this was really put to the test for us after the workshop when we measured our level of psychological safety as a team. I saw the results and I was surprised. We had a lot of work to do. We were not at the level that I had initially assumed we were at. And so it was really a chance for me to reflect on my own part, my own leadership. And then I wanted to go back to the team and get some additional feedback and solutions, work on solutions together. And I asked them, do you want to do this as a group? Would you prefer to do this one to one? They decided to do it as a group and we talked through our strengths, what's going well. We talked through our gaps and then we collectively came up with solutions and those solutions really became our anchors. And there's three categories I'm going to talk about that we really dug into. One was around our team meetings and really revisiting that team meeting structure, because some of the feedback that I got from the group was it's really hard to be candid and speak up when we just don't have time. Our meetings are really tactical. They're very much updates, and we're just not talking through things. And so we shifted our meetings to be more strategic, more time for brainstorming, less tactical, less focus on updates. And then we had already a tradition called Sanctuary that was part of the group, and it was important that we kept it. And what that tradition was, it actually came from trauma informed care. When I worked for the state of Colorado, the Division of Youth Corrections group introduced this to me. And it was every morning with the youth and the counselors, they would do a quick check in to say, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's your big goal for today? And how can we support you? And I just love that model. And so we took that and we would do that at the beginning of every team meeting, ask those three questions. And it really turned into so much more than just a quick check in. We understood where everybody was at. We could offer support and help to people. It led to side conversations and building trust and relationships outside of those meetings. I remember one of the team members even telling me that when we first started doing it, they kind of internally rolled their eyes like, I mean, people aren't really going to be honest, right? Like, why are we doing this? And then it was about a year later that he said, now I couldn't live without this. We have to have sanctuary. It's such an important part of our group's culture and being able to understand where we're at. And another thing that happened as a result of this is people started calling sanctuary in other meetings. So not just in our team meetings, we might be talking about a project separately or something else. And just it felt off in the group. Something was off. And so somebody would just say, hey, can we just take a quick pause and do sanctuary? And then we could check in, we could support each other, and then get back on track. So that was one of the interventions that we focused on. Having team norms is really important to the culture of our group. And so revisiting these and saying, where might we need to create or add a team norm around psychological safety to really focus on that a little bit more. So we updated our team norms based on the results of that psychological safety assessment and where we really wanted to go. And it was something we checked in on regularly. Does anyone else have team norms, or you might call them working agreements or a social contract that you have with your team? And these have fun, what happens in Vegas, those are just examples of some of the norms that we had for our team in the past. But does anyone else do team norms? Anyone? Assume good intent. Yep. Barbara's check saying yes. Open door policy. If you don't have team norms, it is definitely something that I recommend that you do with your team collaboratively. Maybe even doing it in combination with the values exercise. That can be really helpful to understand people's individual values, and then how can you look at the collective themes and create team norms based on them. Yeah, Ashley's sharing, yes, we do gratitude exercise together. Pick up the phone, call your teammates, right? So these are agreements for how we work together, how we communicate, how we make decisions, how we collaborate. And then the final category that we looked at was our gatherings. This team, at the time, this was before we had gone fully remote. And when we went fully remote, it was, even more imperative for us to really focus on time together, not just time in these weekly meetings that they had, but really time to dig into strategy. Because we often, even with the brainstorming that we would do in our team meetings, even that strategic shift, there still just wasn't enough time to really dig into things. So we decided to have quarterly retreats. This was one day where we got together in person and we spent half the day on learning and connection and half the day on strategy, whether it was updating our strategic plan, creating our strategic plan, digging into a program that we wanted to launch a little bit more. But that's how we would divide those. So we started those, and then monthly lunches. And the only rule with the monthly lunches is that you couldn't talk about work. So it was just a gathering for us to connect as humans and get to know each other as humans. And it was optional, knowing that things come up, but almost every time everyone joined, and those were great. We were always laughing. That's one of the things I remember is there was great stories and we were always laughing. And then the professional development, PD is for professional development. Those separate conversations were really important. That was one of the things the team was talking about is that they really wanted to continue to grow individually. And there just was never enough time to talk about professional development and career development in our regular one-to-ones. So we separated out a conversation once a quarter that I would have with each of them where we just talked about professional development, goals around professional development, their career path, their career plan, how I could best support them, how they were using what they learned back in the workplace. So having those, focusing on those three gatherings really did help us. Do you all have similar gatherings? Do you do offsites, retreats, or all day sessions where you get together, or monthly lunches or potlucks, things like that? What kind of gatherings do you all have or connections do you have as your team as a team besides just the team meeting, besides your regular team meeting? Okay, celebrations for work anniversaries, birthdays. Absolutely. Anything else? Any other gatherings you have? Retreats, CASP. Ooh, creating a special place. I like that acronym. Fun lunches, retreats, coffee chats. I try to do a quarterly team lunch or event as time permits. Absolutely. It's really important for us to not just connect on a business level, but connect on a human level. That is going to increase trust and it increases psychological safety in the group as well. And so this for us was just really about being intentional about our time together. And that's something that you want to think about too, as you continue to work with your team. Are we being really intentional about our gatherings? Is now a good time to look at our meeting schedule, to look at our gatherings and revisit them, kind of do an audit and see if we are all getting our needs met in these? And are there places maybe we need to step back because it's not value added, or we might need to change the makeup of it? So I just presented you with a menu of anchors that you may already have or you could pull from in the future. The goal is not to try all of these at once. The goal is to really experiment with at least one that's going to help you get closer to your 1 year from now I am statement. You may even choose something that you've let go of, that you want to revive, something that I didn't mention here, but maybe something I mentioned reminded you or inspired you around another anchor. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What is one anchor that you can try out in the next 10 days? Is it the time management matrix and focusing on importance over urgency, the weekly planning meeting? Maybe there's a boundary you want to revisit, or you want to dust off one of your strengths tools. Maybe it's doing a values exercise, creating some team norms. There's a framework that you want to come back to, revisiting gatherings, or maybe even your team meeting. And I didn't even mention your community. Your community can be an anchor for you as well. There might be a person, a mentor, reaching back out to them could really help you. Weekly planning meeting, weekly planning. I'm seeing in the chat, separate career plans, conversations. Yeah, Adam, I found those to be so helpful. Very, very helpful. Anything else that you want to try? All right, we'll keep them coming in the chat if you have others that you want to share. But this is the basic idea of what we've been talking about. We all need to slow down, pause, and zoom out more. What can anchor me between what can be that bridge between the gap of this challenge, this goal that I'm dealing with, and the ultimate outcome that I want? That's what an anchor can do. It can help steady us and still leave room for flexibility. It's not about weighing us down. So maybe that anchor is a tool, a habit, a mindset, a strength, a person, a norm, but that is the central question that will help us remain intentional and adaptable. And if exploring this question appeals to you, it is going to be a main topic of an upcoming book that I'm working on. And as part of my research, I'm including stories and anchors from leaders like you throughout the book. So if you are interested in sharing your story, I'm going to be sharing a link to just set up a 15, 25-minute conversation with me to share what's shaped how you lead. I'm not recording these conversations. They will be kept anonymous. No names or organizations are going to be included. I know some of you have actually already participated in this, so thank you for that. But if that is something you're interested in, I'll be sharing a link that you can sign up for those interviews. And this is my contact information. So if we haven't met before, this is your first time with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you have some follow-up questions or you need some support with resources related to an anchor that you want to try. And I just want to thank you all for sticking with me for the last hour. I hope you found some helpful tips and strategies along the way. And I'm just going to leave it open for any questions that anyone has. If you have to drop off for your next meeting, I totally understand, but I will stay here for the next few minutes.